Today we're going to replace the anode of this water heater. The anode is a long rod that sticks down through the center of the water heater that helps protect the water heater from rusting. Well, first of all, before we replace the anode, let's take a look at what's inside the water heater. I'll put this drawing up here that I made just a few minutes ago. So what we have is we've got the cold water comes into here, goes down to the bottom of the water heater, gets heated up, and then water exits through the pressure that's built up inside this water heater through the hot water pipe. Most of the houses here have a recirculating pump, so before we change the anode, you want to make sure you turn the recirculating pump off. Or what I did, I just went ahead and unplugged it. I'll show you where that is in 1 second. More importantly, what we've got now is the anode rod, which I drew here in red, and the anode rod is connected to a 1 1/16 hex nut on the top here, which we'll unscrew, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. At the bottom of the water heater, we've got the sensor and the thermostat. You want to make sure you turn the thermostat all the way off, or just turn the gas all the way off, just to make things simple. All right, so what are the items that we're going to need to actually replace the anode? We're going to need a 1 1/16 inch socket. Let's go ahead and get that. Okay, so here's my 1 1/16 inch socket. What I have is, and I've got a torque wrench. You're going to need a lot of torque sometimes to get that anode off. In some cases, it's really hard to get off. You've got to use a hammer or some kind of a pole that you stick on the end of this, and you give it a lot of torque to get the anode out. All right, so typically you can get this. You can't get this at Home Depot, but I got it on eBay for about $3, and then the torque wrench I got on eBay as well for about $3 as well. So the whole thing, including shipping, was less than $10. And you're really going to need something like this to get the anode free, because it really gets stuck in there very good. And when these hot water heaters are new, the anode is in here so tight that sometimes it might take a couple of guys to hold that water heater down and have somebody turn the hex nut and get the anode out. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look. Oh, here's the other thing that we're going to need, of course, is the anode. The anode, once again, you can get off of eBay, or you can get on the web. I bought this one for about $25. That's what they typically cost. The anode is made up of the less noble materials. Like typically it's zinc, aluminum, maybe magnesium. And what happens is you get electrolysis that happens in here, which what it'll do is once this anode is eaten up, it'll start eating away at the water heater. The water heater is a steel casing on the inside lined with some kind of glass material, and once there's always some kind of electrical current in here which eats away at the metals. So with your less noble material, they're more reactive. They'll corrode away before the components inside your water heater. You should check this once a year, and of course if you haven't checked this once a year, when you open up the anode, we want to wish you good luck so that the anode isn't eaten up. We'll take a look at what ours looks like, and I haven't checked mine for a few years, so maybe I'll wish myself good luck too. Sometimes if you've got a water softener, that'll make things a little bit worse. So if you've got a water softener, you want to check this maybe every 6 months, or maybe once a year is fine. Sometimes you'll get a coating of calcium on the anode, and if you get that, then of course the anode's ineffective, and you're probably going to get issues with the water heater. All right, so let's take a look at the top of the water heater. You can see there's the hot water going out, and here's the cold water coming in. What we've got on our system, we've got a circulating pump. I've gone ahead and unplugged that. Let me show you where the anode is sitting. But the anode is located right there. There you can see the 1 1/16 hex that's on top of there. You've got some insulation around there. So I'm probably going to, I cut away some of the insulation, because when I pull the anode out, I don't want the insulation to fall back into the water heater. And then, so we'll pull that out. And the other problem is, you can see that I've got the sealing here. I'm not going to be able to pull the anode all the way out. So in my case, I've got just enough room to tilt it, and I can wedge the anode out. And of course, if you can't get the anode out, you can pull it up a little bit, cut a section off, and cut the, keep pulling it out that way. Just want to make sure the anode doesn't fall back into the water heater. Okay, before I pull the anode out, what I want to do is I've gone ahead and turned the water heater off. I can turn the gas off, and it's probably a good idea to turn the gas off. So I'll come over here, turn the gas off, and now I'm going to have to relight the pilot light, which is okay. And the other thing you want to do, of course, is we're going to empty the water heater just a little bit. I've already turned the water to the water heater off and turn the hot water faucets on to relieve the pressure. So let me get that on there. And you want to be careful not to empty the water heater completely, because you're going to use the weight of the water in the water heater to hold the water heater in place while you try to churn the anode and try to get that out. So let's go ahead and let a little bit of water out here. And all the pressure's already gone. I've got this connected to the lawn, so I'm watering my lawn right now. So enough water's probably come out. I'll go ahead and shut this off. Okay, so now we're at the top of the water heater. I'll go ahead and take my socket and torque wrench, and I'll put it right on the anode. And it's not going to be easy to turn this. I don't have a lot of room, but I'll give it a shot here. So it actually turned. I have checked this over time. The first time I undid this, it was really difficult. Okay. Now once you get it, you can go ahead and use a regular socket attachment and go ahead and lift that out. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what the anode looks like. Okay, I've got the anode completely loose. I'm going to pull this out. And that's really bad news. There's nothing left at all, which is not a good sign. So I've probably got some corrosion in this water tank. And now this is not pulling out completely, which is really bad. And here's the anode completely pulled out of the water heater. We got very, very, very lucky. You can see the part of the anode is still there. A lot of calcification on the anode. There's not much of the anode left. In fact, if you take a look at this, this is really hard to get out of the water heater. This is the part that was sticking on top, and I actually had to use a screwdriver to jimmy this out of there. And if this had fallen out to the bottom of the water heater, it would have corroded the bottom of the water heater, and that would have been it. Some of the neighbors here have spent about $3,000 replacing this water heater, and so we got very, very, very lucky. So again, the anode should be checked once every year, maybe initially once every 6 months, and see what kind of condition it is. Okay, let's go ahead and get ready to put our other anode back in there. Okay, here we go. Here's our new anode. It looks really, really good. Now the problem with this is you've got a wall here. I'm not going to be able to get this particular anode in. There are other anodes that you can buy that come in 3 pieces that are attached together by chain link. Or some kind of a link, which fold in half. And this one, again, because of old Brian's infinite wisdom of designing homes that are not really that serviceable, I'm going to have to put this in at an angle. You want to be careful about that, not to bump the sides. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to get this in. If you can't get this in, sometimes what you can do is you can cut about 6 inches off the end. Maybe I can get an angle here. Let's see. It just barely fits. You want to be careful to go in at a straight angle, not to bump the sides. And there we go. Looks like a pretty good fit. Before you put this in, make sure on the anode you've got 2 rolls of this white plumber's tape to make a good seal. Now I'll take my socket wrench from eBay, put that right on top. You want to try to put this, you want to try to squeeze this in and make sure you don't cross thread this. So I'm going to go and just kind of hand tighten this a little bit and just get this started. Maybe I'll do this with my fingers. Okay, I've hand tightened this as far as I can. Now when I tighten this, I don't want to use my torque wrench. What I'll do is I'll use a smaller socket attachment, and I don't need that much force, so I'll go ahead and use this and tighten this up. Okay, so I've got it pretty tight with the socket wrench. We'll go ahead and turn the water back on. There we go. And there goes the water. And I've disconnected my hose. It's all closed up. We'll let the water pressure build in. Now, as the water heater is filling up, you want to make sure you've got a hot water faucet on, and that'll let all the air drain out of here. Otherwise, it'll never fill up. So I've got air coming through one of the faucets in the bathroom, and it'll take a few minutes to fill up. So we'll wait till that's finished, and we'll come back here and finish up here with the pilot light and so on. And of course, the last thing we're going to do is light the pilot light. Turn your gas back on. Go to pilot. Push down. Come down here. Grab one of these lighters with the long extension. Reach down here and light the pilot light. Pilot light is lit. We'll go ahead and turn this from pilot to on, and the heater kicks in, and we're all set. Okay, now we've got the water heater running. I've gone ahead and put the cover back on. Last step we're going to do, we're going to take this recirculating pump. We'll take the plug here and plug it back in, and you will hear the pump start to recirculate. And there it goes. All set. Fresh anode. Should be good for another few years. And we'll check the anode every 6 months to a year. Alright, good luck. And here's one last look at our anode that we pulled out. It looks pretty bad. And as you can see, you probably don't want to drink the hot water. You can use it for cooking and so on. And you can see the anode was pretty much gone. And here at the end, it had broken off this wire. You should never get to this point. Obviously, I got very, very lucky. And hopefully you won't go through the same situation.